Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Fergus Ewing is one of the very few politicians of any party, of any assembly, with whom people have a natural affinity. People actually like him, people respect him. Even though he's SNP, people say Fergus is one of the good guys. He's an honest, decent, hard-working MP, or MSP. And he is, as I say, deeply respected. And so when he speaks, people tend to listen. And he has spoke up now about what he defines as possibly Scotland's biggest ever political scandal. And of course, this is to do with putting Alex Salmond under the spotlight and the removal of him from power by effectively a coup d'etat cooked up by members of the SNP itself under the tutelage and oversight, allegedly, of Nicola Sturgeon. He's saying that it's got all the potential of being such a damaging scandal that it could irrevocably destroy trust in politics in Scotland. I think trust in politics in Scotland has already gone. That's a no-brainer. But he has got a point. And he's saying that it's not just the fact that they did it that's damaging, it's the huge amount of effort that they're putting in to trying to cover it up. He says the attempts to cover it up will expose even more about these people. It will damn even more people with these accusations of a very serious nature, these misconduct of very serious nature at the very heart, at the highest level of government. There's at least, as it stands, there's at least 6 civil servants and government advisors that are accused of plotting against Alex Salmond. And this is outside, of course, the likes of Nicola Sturgeon and and Peter Murrell and all those, Liz Lloyd. That's it. All those at the top, that little coterie of kiss asses. They also stand accused. Some of the women who made the initial accusations have since rescinded them. Some have admitted that they were lies, that they were basically bullied or cajoled into making these accusations. And that is why, of course, Salmond is taking them all to court, likely to win. And it's, with £3 million, this has to come out of party funds. This isn't a government matter. This is a party matter. And therefore, it'd have to be the SNP that paid. This would put the SNP out of business. They just don't have that kind of money. Now, Fergus is one of the, I suppose you call, leading figures within both the SNP and sort of wider Scottish politics, the nationalist movement. As I say, he's highly respected, but he's described it, as I say, as this plot, and he says it's despicable. And of course, this began way back when sexual harassment charges were laid against Alex Salmond, and he was later cleared. Went to court, cleared his name, no problem. And at that moment, of course, you knew that he would be gunning for them. They had to have him in jail. If they could get him jailed, it was done. But they couldn't create enough evidence. They couldn't manufacture enough evidence. They couldn't get people to lie convincingly enough. And so he was proved innocent, which is quite right, because I will have many problems with Alex Salmond, but I do not ever see him as that sort of person. I found it very, very difficult to believe. And indeed, as did everyone else, especially the jury, for example. So quite good there. But of course, now that he's suing them, more and more of the truth will come out because they've got disclosure. And of course, this disclosure is going to be damning enough, isn't it? But it's the fact that it was civil servants who engaged in this party political matter so deeply as well. These spads and civil servants and sort of mandarins high up there, getting their hands dirty in party political matters in order to effectively perpetrate a coup d'etat on the Scottish people is what is deeply, deeply sinister about all this. Because if they can do it to Alex, they can do it to anyone. And so if, after the next election, Anna Sarwar, for example, was leader of the Labour Party, would they work to overthrow and undermine him? I think undoubtedly they would. We know that the civil service in Scotland is predominantly an SNP supporting organisation. Indeed, the civil service is in fact the administrative arm of the SNP in all but name. But of course, Alex trounced the Scottish Government in their judicial review. And it's so much so, in fact, that the Scottish Government's own lawyer, their top KC and whatever, basically deprecated the failings of his own client. And the civil servants in instructing him, he basically gave in, and he had to moan because even defending them, he couldn't get the relevant information from his own clients. His own clients were so scared of the truth coming out, they wouldn't even tell their own KC, who of course would be sworn to secrecy by law. He couldn't tell anyone anything, but it was so bad, they didn't even want to tell their own KC. And so the KC was going into battle unarmed. You've got to let me know the truth. We can't let you know the truth. Why? Because the truth is so bad, you may refuse to represent us. That's how bad this is. And even the judge at the case, he said it was tainted with obvious and apparent bias. Well, there you go. The moment they say that, you know that it's all over. And so the government threw in the towel, admitted defeat, and it came to naught. And so they ended up, of course, not just with the cost, they ended up with everything. They had to pay everything. That's how bad it was. And so where do you go from there? Well, I'll tell you where you go. If you're Alex Salmond, you take them straight out and sue them. Now, of course, they've had these documents that they didn't want to tell their KC, but they still exist. And as part of his defence, of course, Alex wants these documents revealed in court. And the SNP are trying their best to keep these covered up. They don't want these documents coming out, because if these documents come out into open court, it will show the illegality of what they've done. And that means that a lot of people within the SNP and within the civil service and so forth would themselves then be held up, not in a civil case that Alex is going for, but in a criminal case, which means jail time. And that, of course, is the worrying thing, especially for Sturgeon. If she has jail time and is shown to be a crook when she goes to her next trial, then, of course, the defence will be playing on a very sticky wicket regardless, wouldn't it? But, like I say, Fergus Ewing comes on, he's saying all these things. He's saying it was grotesque, it was perverted, it should never have happened. And it's simply a case of the likes of Sturgeon, Liz Lloyd, etc. just had to get rid and had to jail Alex Salmond, because it's the only way they could effectively take over, take control, and then do what they did. And so it is. And so the investigation continues, the trial continues, and the SNP is still fighting to make sure that those documents are not revealed in open court. I do hope Alex wins the rights to get them examined, to bring them into the light, and to show who said what to whom and when. And then for the prosecutions to begin. Thanks very much. Take care. Goodbye.